recording this because the survivors no longer envy the dead. The final war is over. Its architects forever entombed in velvet glass and steel. I watched the efforts of our species dance away on the radioactive wind. Civilization retreated by millennia. All of human history brought to dust. Our cities, now scorched black mausoleums, serve as a reminder. There can be no victory in war. Earth is the answer to the question of our mortality. With resolute defiance, we choose to grasp at the delicate thread of life. My son, the gift of survival is yours. Please, may you never submit. There will be more.
This is it. We are on our own. The air is clear. Welcome home. We're headed straight for oblivion, but we're gonna make it. Whatever
Oh, they've done it! Steven Gerrard, an instant hero! Can you believe this? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. It's not quite a Victory Monday or a Victory Tuesday, but it's a Tuesday nonetheless. Back at it with you with our co-host, Jack Mangan. Jack, how we doing, my friend?
Doing excellent. Good to be back with you after we were bamboozled by ESPN Plus on match day 2.
Yeah, bamboozled by ESPN on match day 2. We also had referees get involved and screwed us over, and then it's just been it's been a cluster. It seems like, but we're back at it. We had to use our Czech Republic stream there this weekend to watch the game, but we did it nonetheless. Let's do a quick rundown of what we're getting into tonight. We're going to talk about the game that was against Magdeburg. Polter contract. What's the status there? The GOAT, we're going to talk Matriciani. What is his status with the team? He's no longer with the team. What does it mean? We have some new players. We're going to get into that. And then we'll talk a little Ultras. They got into a little trouble, didn't get into the game. So we'll get into all that stuff there, Jack. But we had a game this weekend against Magdeburg. Previewing the game, saying that, Magdeburg, they slapped us around pretty well last year, 3-0. Probably the worst defeat, I would say, of the Gerard's tenure. We kind of went on a roll after that. We had to take this team seriously. Thoughts on the team, Magdeburg, that we were going to face, into the weekend?
Yeah, a lot of new names, club-wise for us, obviously, over the last couple seasons or few seasons, being in the second division. But yeah, Magdeburg was a team that seemed to very quickly. Those matches were notable last year, whenever we were involved with them. So, obviously, those things don't necessarily carry over year to year. Every year, it's its own thing. Different squads, different situations. But, certainly had the eyebrow raised going into this one, and it delivered in that respect.
It certainly did. So let's get into the game here. Look at the starting lineup. It was a slight change from what we had seen previously. Back goalie was still the same. We had Hoffman, who played in the DFB Pokal, did well in that game, but I don't think he did anything that warranted Justin Heckerin losing his spot, nor did I think Heckerin did anything leading up to this to lose his spot. He was in goal. I then slides back to the right back position. There was Cisse, Felipe Sanchez in the middle, and then Merkin on the left. The midfield was back together again with Bachmann and Seguin. You had Karaman leading Moore and Hamach, the new man, Ilyas Hamach, get into the lineup. That was a bit of a shocker for me. And then, of course, Musa Silla leading the line. Thoughts on the starting 11, in particular, the addition of the new man, Hamach, and then, where else you want to take this?
Hey, might as well run him out there right away, right?
Yeah.
See what you got, throw him into the fire. It's still interesting that, Tobias Moore is kind of in the lineup, and we'll see how long that continues this season. It was a surprise match day 1, obviously, and he had, that goal and everything, but interesting there. Heckerin, that situation with Hoffman is interesting. I think I'm concerned that's going to be a thing all season, and I hope there's not a lot of noise that develops from it. But and look, it isn't unusual to give your second goalkeeper the cup games. That happens in the Premier League quite often, for example, right? It's like they sometimes, especially with the bigger clubs, they give some of those reserve guys those tournaments as sort of like their regular playing time. But I don't know. I think as strong as his performance was match day 1, I don't think Heckerin was amazing this week, and as long as there's those comparison opportunities that are put forward by playing both in various competitions, I think people are going to be comparing them. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. No noise on that for the time being, but fine seeing him there. And then Cisse and Sanchez, what a center back pairing, man. We really didn't know going into the season what our back line was going to look like, and this was certainly an interesting back four, and I'm sure we'll get into what our thoughts on how that went overall.
And interesting too, because you look at the bench, you see the name Salazar. Yes, that is Rodrigo Salazar's younger brother, Mauro. I was surprised to see him in the lineup because they pegged him and Steve Nude as players for the future, but hey, we got a lot of people injured, so it kind of makes sense to just put them in there right away. Gruger, a name that everyone's been harping for, so hey, get him in the lineup because he's a midfield, a guy who can really help the midfield and really, when Seguin's not there, or fill in for Seguin would be a good option. He's on the bench in this one. And the new man, Antwi Aje from Bochum, we knew that he was going to be involved. He was the guy who featured heavily with Bochum last year. He's got some goals with them. How much makes sense why he's in the lineup? He's been training before he came to Schalke with Valenciennes, where he came from, so he had a lot of match prep in him. So I understand that move to an extent. But yeah, certainly an interesting lineup to start the game, and got off really well. Karaman, Silla, two guys who have been the focal point of the attack this far this season. Get it going within the first 10 minutes of the game. Karaman, leads a rush, finds Silla on the left. Silla makes a quick move to the right, gets a banger off the far corner. Great curler of a goal. Way to start the game in Magdeburg. Great goal. Great opening goal there. I love seeing that.
For sure. And I'm not going to try to, be too negative here or whatever, because I do think the opening sequences, leading up to that goal were a little bit better than what came for the remainder of the first half. But even that play itself, I didn't feel like was particularly in rhythm. I felt like Karaman held onto the ball too late, kind of like ruined Silla's momentum and opportunity to kind of play that in and keep the defense on the back foot. And it was really only through Silla's, obviously just kind of special piece of play that he was able to create a yard of space to get something off and delivered a spectacular strike. So look, once again, the money that we invested in him in the offseason seems to be paying off. The guy is really, making himself worth that so far. But yeah, the offense I didn't even think was particularly cohesive in that moment. We looked dangerous on the counterattack, but like those chances were sort of like, I think fortunate more than like by design sometimes. So that was my take, and I was worried about what I was seeing early on, but very, very glad obviously to get the early goal, because obviously going ahead early is huge for us.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think over the next 30 minutes or even the remainder of the first half, the only thing I think that we did well was look good on the counterattack. I thought, in particular, the next 30 minutes, anytime Magdeburg, who had heavy possession, I mean, we talked about in the Discord, it seemed like it was like 90%, possession for Magdeburg at times. But on the counterattack, we looked dangerous. We hadn't seen a competent looking team on a counterattack in a long time. And so that was the only positive I took away. And we were bending, not breaking. But I mean, outside of that, we gave them way too much possession in that first half. And I talked about it in the recap, the review of the match, how you have 5 midfielders in there. You need to have way more possession than what they had. They had, I think, at halftime, the possession was 59-41. I mean, it's something ridiculous. No way it should be that when you have 5 midfielders. So there was a lot not to like in that first half. Thoughts on how that first half panned out?
It was pretty much 60-40. It was pretty unbalanced watching it. And yeah, I mean, it had to have been obviously by design. Because I think everyone noticed very quickly, like, we are not putting any pressure on them. We're backing off pretty far. We're kind of letting them do whatever they want. And so obviously that has to be, directed when you're seeing it to that extent. But I question the efficacy of that, just because I think the idea a lot of the time is when you're doing those sorts of things, you're going to clog up the middle of the field. You're going to make it difficult to be played through in that regard, because you're going to be, condensing, not stepping out and creating these windows in behind. But they kind of passed through us pretty easily anyway, which was the concerning part. It was way too easy for them to kind of mess around for a minute and then find a couple angle passes, and suddenly they're in around the final third. So yeah, I don't think it was an approach that was benefiting us. Fortunately, we were, a little bit lively on the counter, which was good, because in possession, we looked, generally speaking, pretty bereft. And that was frustrating, because I think that was one of the things that we were excited about, at least I was, match day one, watching that game, was the fluidity and the timing and the rhythm and the chemistry of a lot of the possession play that we saw. I thought was significantly improved over what we saw last season. And whatever that was that I saw match day one was just not present today, which was, or this weekend, which was frustrating. So early goal for us, but in my opinion, largely one-way traffic after that. Weird approach, and definitely needed that halftime whistle.
Yeah, unfortunately, that whistle didn't come fast enough. Someone commented on our YouTube, and I don't remember the name. Forgive me, but I definitely commented on you. But they said like it seemed like the defense was bypassing the midfield and trying to go to attack right away. Most of it, yeah, we were on the counterattack, but still, like you got those 5 people in the midfield, you got to do better. I mean, Seguin and Bachmann were poor. I thought Hamach was non-existent, and I'm willing to give him a benefit of the doubt because it's his first game. He got thrown into the fire. Might not know the exact tactics or whatever. He was non-existent to me. Other than his name being on the team sheet, I didn't notice him at all. And I noticed both wingbacks, Merkin and Hayden, were getting beat. Backtracking by the midfielders was poor. It just seemed like they could do whatever they wanted, and eventually it bent, and they scored a goal 39th minute. I thought Cisse could have done a little bit better. It was kind of no man's land there. I'm not going to fault the keeper on any of the 2 goals that we scored, but yeah, 1-0 the 39th minute, and then minutes later, just before halftime, they scored again. I thought it was an own goal at that point. We were talking about it before the podcast, but they ended up crediting it to Martin Cars. 2-1 at halftime. Yeah, thoughts on how we got out? I mean, deserved for them.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like, and I'm not saying our approach before the goal was that much different than was after the goal, but it's one of those things that you hear in football all the time. It's just like, okay, you take the advantage in a game doing something, and then your approach afterwards is to change your approach.
Yeah.
Which oftentimes lets people back in the game. And I just felt like
Yeah.
that wasn't the way to defend the lead that we had. And I say, like, of course you can counter and say, what are you talking about? Like, they were trying to defend, but we need to put more pressure on them. We needed to make them uncomfortable. I think we allowed them to settle in the game and kind of take over the narrative way too much. Yeah. And then that goal, where do you want to start on that one? Comes in off a corner kick. Merkin is right there, fails to block it or clear it out. And so it goes all the way through. Bad. I forget to what player. That I think that bounces back out or is like deflected or something towards the end line. Yeah. Merkin is there again and goes to clear the ball and plays it like directly to a Magdeburg player who quickly fires it in centrally. And then I think was that Matheson that scored the first one, or was it?
Yes, Matheson.
Yeah, because it was a center back who was up for the corner, right?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Sanchez, it's tough, but he just gets put in an arm's length, completely spun, and extremely decisive finish. Yeah. That whole thing happened pretty quickly. I don't want to put too much on Sanchez there, but he definitely kind of got like little brothered and like did not put up much of a fight. So pretty bad moment for Merkin there, which is unfortunate because he's generally, a pretty steady guy, but he's going to be in the limelight a lot this season without Thomas Owain. So what were your thoughts on that goal?
Yeah, I had the same sentiments there. I thought we could have done a lot better. I mean, Merkin was shambolic back there with both those attempts. And then, it was just like pinball in the middle when the ball was in the box and nobody really stepped up to do anything. Cisse tried to stretch out to get it as well. Couldn't do it there. And Häkkinen kind of left stranded there. And so it was a really poor goal. It's goals that we gave up last year, hoping that we got rid of it, and we hadn't. And so, yeah, it was frustrating to see. And then, obviously, they get that second goal as well just before halftime. It's like, fuck.
Which was kind of Merkin and Sanchez again, unfortunately. Merkin, ball gets played in behind. Merkin fails to kind of block the cross that gets played. And Sanchez just slow to react, can't beat his man. It is kind of in a one-on-one, and it's knocked directly at Häkkinen, who keeps it out, but it's flying towards the goal on the kind of sort of like the rebound from the shot. And Aydin comes in there and kind of pushes it across the line. It looked like an own goal. I think it was called as an actual goal because it was on target based on the deflection, and so Aydin didn't change it from going off target. But not a great moment for Aydin there either. So 3 Schalke players in the space of a couple seconds not covering themselves in Corey, and that was a sucker punch, right before halftime. And just the culmination once again of that whole approach, allowing them to kind of keep the pressure up and slowly turn the screw in that first half.
Yeah, we obviously mention how Merkin didn't have a great first half or game. I also thought Justin Häkkinen did not have. I think he caused a lot of heartache and nervousness and anxiety to the back line because anytime the ball was in the air, in the box, in his area, he flubbed it. Either he missed the ball completely, dropped the ball, whatever, and it made it hard times. Luckily, the defense cleared many balls out of that box, but Häkkinen looked shaky in the air. Like, he made some saves when he had to. I'm not going to fault him on 2 goals, but he didn't make it easy on the defense at all. And so, he didn't have that great of a
Yeah.
game, I thought,
I agree. I was impressed by him week 1. I thought this was a much less convincing performance.
Yep. That's when the questions are starting to raise now with Hoffman, because Hoffman does well again in the Pokal, or Heckern has another poor game. Those questions will come, but I mean, we'll see what they're doing in practice. I'm gonna trust that the manager knows what he's doing in that regard. Like I said, we've seen this dance before with two goalkeepers going back and forth who are both capable. Hopefully, nothing happens in the locker room. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I thought going to the second half, we were hoping we see a better performance, but it really was much of the same until probably the 60th minute or so when we had all the substitutions come in. And I don't remember what order they came in, but I know Donkor came in for more. Hamach came off, and that was who came on for him? I
Eunice?
Yes, yeah. Eunice came in, and Bullet and Antwi Adie eventually came in later. But yeah, Eunice and Donker came in. I thought it was immediately an impact for the offense. I thought we started looking more lively. We started possessing the ball a lot better, I think, than we had up until that point. Did you feel like the insertion of those two players were benefiting us or not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either of those two players specifically had too many standout moments individually. Maybe Eunice a couple more nice passes or something than the other one in terms of like switches of play or whatnot. No, but the Discord, 15 minutes into the second half was very much asking for substitutions at that point. I think we had all seen enough for the second half and not seen much of a change. So fortunately, Gerards didn't wait too much longer than that to make the changes, and that certainly helped us gain a little bit more of a foothold and start controlling possession a little bit more. So at least we quieted that down a little bit. In the second half was much more even in that regard, as after seeing that sort of like 60-40 split in the first half. So we definitely helped control the match a little better in the second half with the insertion of some of those subs. I think the interesting thing, and I'm curious to hear what you think, and this is not just because of what ultimately ended up happening in terms of the scoreline, but it wasn't Donker or Eunice that was, I thought, the most eye-catching sub, and it was the other guy you mentioned. So what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, so Antwi Adie was kind of forced to come on because Paul Seguin picked up an injury. It looked like a hamstring. Hopefully that's nothing too serious. He just came back from an injury. So hopefully it was more like, hey, I feel something. Let me get off here and bring in this guy from Bochum. And yeah, I thought he was almost an immediate impact of anybody that came on. I agree. And he ultimately ended up getting an assist in the game to Keenan Karaman for the game-tying goal. But yeah, I liked what I saw from him. I feel it's going to be, I think it's incumbent on Bachmann and Seguin and maybe some of the other midfielders that are out there to continue to play well, or this guy's going to take their place, because I think this guy, if he can play wing, maybe take Tobias Moore off. I mean, there's also Hoyland out there, right? There's also Donker could probably play in that position as well. So it gives the coach more options. And I think he was quoted as saying, yesterday or today, saying like, hey, a surplus in options, I'll take it all day. That's a win in my book. So I love what I saw from him. And obviously getting assists proves that, he was going for it. He was in the box creating stuff. So I loved it. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I thought very advanced position a lot of the times in terms of kind of where he was averaging on the pitch, much higher than a lot of other Schalke players in this game. So certainly seemed to be taking the initiative when he came on and getting into those areas. And yeah, he just seemed to give us a spark, could create separation when he had the ball, on the dribble a little bit. And looking forward to potentially seeing more of that, whether it's in cameos or whatnot. And then, as you said, ultimately, obviously, of course, contributes to the second goal. It's just like, doesn't matter how show-stopping, the somebody else's goal is. Doesn't matter like how whatever Keenan Karaman's been in a particular game. He can come up with those scruffy second half goals out of nowhere that don't look particularly great, but he just finds a way to bang it over the line. Like he gets into the right.
It's like Toronto 3 years ago. That's what it was like,
I mean, kind of. I don't even know about that, because I think Toronto was just like so much more of a focal point and so clinical. But like, Karaman just gets into the right places enough with enough frequency to score some of these. So, I mean, obviously Musa Silla's going to get the headlines with that one, but once again, when you need him popping up, there he is. So that's good to see. So I was pleased with that at least. So yeah, a good performance from our two front men, and I think pretty poor performances overall from a lot of our starting, people on the corners, whether it's Moore, Merkin, Aydin, Hamach. Yeah, so the spine of the team looking decent except for the center backs today as well. Well, that brings me to it. So how do you feel about Cisse's performance overall? We talked about Sanchez a little bit in his involvement in the goals, but
Yeah, no. I thought, and I mentioned this on the review. I thought of the back four, I thought Cisse was the best. I thought he was the most calm when the ball was there. Like there was a play where Sanchez, we thought all in Discord, we all thought that it was a penalty. We knew it wasn't a penalty. It looked like a clear tackle, but they went to VAR and we're like, they're not going to call it a penalty, are they? And luckily, they didn't call it against Sanchez. A great tackle, but Sanchez, well, an improved game. This is still not a great game overall. Cisse, you weren't sure. Coach is obviously giving him a lot of confidence in practice and with the words he said in the public. And you see it in this game where like he's establishing his size. He's got some skill set. He's got good footwork. He looked calm when the pressure's on him. I thought the rest of the team was how terrible they were with the press. He was actually fairly calm, and so I liked his performance. You know, I always give my ratings after games, and I gave him a neutral score, which isn't a bad thing considering we gave up 2 goals and the defense was shit. So I like the performance from Cisse. I want to see more. Obviously, for me, Kalash is still number 1, and Schallenberg, if he's not in the midfield, then put him in the defense. But I liked it. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I agree. And like just the comparison between the two of them, and like they're pretty much the same age, if not actually the same age. And like Sanchez looks like a kid, and Cisse looks like like a proper like professional, which is just funny. But like, everyone knows like the physical attributes for Cisse and everything. I think some of the question is more just his positioning and decision making at times, and the cleanliness of some of his actions. I did not notice in this game very many moments. And once again, I'm watching this at 6:30 in the morning on foreign language stream. This is not an ESPN Plus weekend, so my ability to watch this clearly and recall it is fuzzy. But I did not recall particularly too many moments where I was questioning his positioning, and I thought he looked like the much more confident and assured of the two. So that was not a great defensive performance from Schalke in this game, obviously, but I thought from him it was a positive data point, and hopefully he can get some confidence from that one. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. We talk about Merkin and Aiden not having. Oh, Merkin certainly not having a good game. I thought Aiden was quiet. He wasn't as involved as he was when he was playing up in the right wing position previously. Sanchez, again, like I said, a better of a game. I'm not throwing him out. I think he's improved since the first time we saw him. Even the Pokal, he was good. Almost gave him a penalty in that game. But I think Sanchez is good. If they're, for considering this is not our best 11. Right, because there's a lot of stars out. This is not a bad performance. Cisse, I thought, did good enough to kind of clean up the mess that the rest of the defenders are making, and so I liked his performance. We talked about Christopher Antwi Adye and how good he looked off the bench. A lot of that to do with Paul Seguin, who I thought didn't seem himself. Maybe it's him coming off an injury, but he, in the past, leading up to before the injury, he was getting up high in the game, getting involved, trying to get in the box and try to get assists or shots, whatever. We didn't see much of that in this game. He was very quiet, and so hopefully, give him some time to rest and maybe bringing this new man, to kind of take over and let Seguin heal up, because I was unimpressed by Seguin and Bachmann as a partnership just because they did nothing really. They weren't involved defensively. They weren't involved in the build-up. The whole midfield was just junk, and so I was disappointed by that, I think.
The one thing I'll say is so much of what we did offensively was on the counter, and that's going to inherently lend itself less to players like Bachmann and Seguin.
Yeah.
But I also think when you talk about the issues in terms of who was the most either absent from the game or not absent in the wrong way in terms of notably making mistakes, it's Hamash, it's Moore, it's Merkin, it's Aiden. It wasn't a standout performance from Bachmann or Seguin, but I personally, they're not getting any derision from me in this one. I think they were fine, they were steady. It just was not a cohesive performance and not the right approach, and really kind of put us on the back foot for most of the 90 minutes. The other thing I'll say is, look, I understand the point you're making. Hey, we're actually disagreeing for once. This is great on the podcast, but I understand the point you're making regarding like, hey, this is not our optimum back four. This is not our first choice back four. So given that, it's not particularly worrying. The reason I'll disagree with that is, I don't think it was a good performance overall. And given the injury history that we've had over the last couple seasons, this could very well end up being a back four that we may have to rely on. And also, given the summer that Cisse had and the performances so far, he may end up being first choice anyway. And Sanchez was certainly somebody that we like targeted and brought in to compete. So there's a suggestion that he's expected to be decent. The average age of this back line in this game was like 22.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's just not old enough. You don't have the leadership. You don't have the level-headedness. And you would at least hope that you have a veteran goalkeeping presence or something along that to kind of direct things. And you don't have that either. You have a guy who's kind of in a competition for his job potentially, who's looked kind of shaky in this one. You had a stinker from Merkin. You have Aiden who as much as we root for him and whatever else, fails to make an impact often enough, and sometimes is on the wrong end of stuff too. And yeah, so you understand what I'm saying? I just feel like that's a young back line that we could get stuck with. That's not a strong enough performance for me, in my opinion.
It's funny with Paul Lam for years was one of the best right backs in history. Was he right back, left back? I think whatever side he was on, he was very small. He's Aiden size, little guy. But he didn't seem like he was bullied because he was so smart. He just know how to play the position so well. Aiden is not there, and so it's evident when he's out there because he's getting bullied by the bigger attackers that are around him. And in the box, when the ball's in there, he just gets pushed around, it seems like. Or even his pace isn't that great. We saw him get beat a lot for pace in this game. I would have almost preferred to see Hamachi not get the start, get him off the bench, and then put Aiden up top in the right wing position and put Bullet back there in the right back position. I mean, I don't know if he had lost his way with the manager from the game in the Pokal, or he just wanted to rest some guys. I don't know. But it wouldn't been my ideal starting 11. But hey, sometimes you got to try these things and see if they work or they don't work, and then tweak it from there. But yeah, overall, it's just not a great performance. And luckily, our two strikers up top, they had limited opportunities and they made the most of it, which we screamed about for forever. Last year, I was seeing we're going to get limited opportunities. We need to take advantage of it. And we're starting to do that, at least with the strikers. Both guys on 3 goals now to start the season. So yeah, we got away at 2-2, 2-2 draw in this one. And so overall, getting a point on the road, I think is a good thing. I think we prefer to win, but we're in the top 10 still. We're only 3 points out of first. So yeah, it could have been a lot worse, especially the way that first 60 minutes was going, where it's completely one-sided, it seems like possession-wise. So, I mean...
Yeah, Schalke doing a little, result sampler platter. A little win-loss draw to start the season, touch them all, see what they're all like. But, that's much better than some of the seasons we've had recently where we've had 5 losses to start the season or something along those lines. So, certainly a much more positive start to the year than we've had previously. Just like I said, once again, just worrying approach, I think, from Gerards in this one, and interested to see how we bounce back.
Yeah, important result as some of the games went out. Karlsruhe beat Elversberg 3-2. Hanover beat Hamburger 1-0. Hertha beat Regensburg 2-0. Fürth and Paderborn drew. They were the two best record-wise in the league, 1-1. Kaiserslautern won 1-0 against Munster. Köln won 5-0 against Braunschweig. We got them next. My goodness. Darmstadt, Nuremberg drew 1-1, and then Dusseldorf beat 2-1. So yeah, we got Cologne around the corner here. They didn't look great the first couple weeks, but a big win against Eintracht Braunschweig. Hoping that game is at home because we're a lot better at home than we are on the road. On the road, we've been struggling. I think our road form needs to improve if we want to do anything, have any chance this year to anything, in the top 10, top 5, or even higher. But we got Cologne at home, so that's a good news there. Little bit of news. This bit of news came before the game. We severed ties with Sebastian Polter. His contract has been mutual consent. They terminate the contract. Makes sense, no brainer. I thought this is actually a good move. What are your thoughts on Sebastian Polter terminating his contract?
I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised by it because I know this was a huge talking point all summer long. In the sense that we were not having him as being part of the plan for the squad, and we were struggling to find a location for him or somewhere for him to go. But then I think it was match day 1. Maybe I'm wrong. Didn't he come on and make a substitute performance? I don't think it was particularly a long period of time.
Stoppage time or something late in the game.
Yeah, but the fact that he was in the match day squad and got used, I thought was surprising. And then maybe think, hey, maybe they've given up on trying to find a solution here, and they're just gonna say, hey, you have no options. No one's looking to sign you at the moment. Why don't you just stick around and keep playing some football? But obviously, it turns like that has not been the case, and they've mutually found a way to agree to part ways here.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine a striker like him says, hey, I can still contribute to a team. Let me play. And if Garage is saying you're not going to be in my starting 11 at all, and we'll bring you in late in the games only as a cameos, I can see why he would want to leave. I think it's a good move just because I like Poulter. I like his skill set, and I thought he could have contributed to us, given his goal scoring ways. A player like this, as we've seen with other players, they can get disgruntled, and that can turn toxic in the locker room. And so I didn't want to have that in there. We already have a couple players we're trying to get rid of in terms of that with the defender whose name is escaping me at the moment, and Drexler. But yeah, I thought, just because of that reason alone, we got strikers. We got enough strikers, I think, young strikers that we could probably put in there. Let him go. Let him try to figure it out and go play somewhere else, and maybe he gets a start. Maybe get some goals somewhere else. But yeah, I didn't want him in the locker room with that chance that it could upset the locker room. Not that he did. The one of his best trait was that his doggedness and going after hustling for the ball, at times arguing with the opposing team or the referee. Karaman does plenty of that, so he doesn't have to do that. We got goal scorers now, at least for at the moment. So I'm okay with this move. So it's fine with me. Moving on to that didn't work. That button didn't work. Moving on, another player who's moving on, Henny Matriciani. He is going to SV Waldhof Mannheim. It is a loan, not a permanent deal. So it is a loan. So the GOAT is still have a chance, as we said prior, to still be on the team. But makes sense. I think he kind of fell out of favor. We talked about this in the last year. He's probably not in the plans with Gerard in terms of the starting 11. You good with this?
It's not goodbye. It's I'll see you later. So
Right.
let's raise a glass to the GOAT. And,
That's right.
We'll be keeping close eyes on his progress, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a direct competitor, so we'll get to keep an eye on. I think it's a Dritte Liga team. I don't remember, but yeah, he's on his way. And so obviously with the departures of those players, we had some new players that stepped into the fold. 4, in fact, this week. Started from the top left corner. You had Rodrigo Salazar's younger brother, Mauro Salazar, midfielder. He's a young player. I think he's 18, 19 years old. He's certainly one for the future. Got him from Granada. Right next to him, Steven Nude, 19-year-old. He also looks to be very much one for the future. Below them, that's Ilyes Hamach. Came from Valenciennes. Trained with them, prepared with them before the season, so he's more match fit than the rest of them. And then, of course, the midfielder we were talking about who could fill in for Paul Seguin when he's out or injured, whatever. Christopher Antwi Adye from Bochum. All 4 signings, 3 of them were in the lineup in terms of the bench or in the team sheet. But yeah, I think Ben Manga and Vilmots are cooking. They're not spending too much money. It seems at least with Hamach and Antwi Adye, they're guys who could help offensively, which we need a lot of help with. And we saw already that Antwi Adye provided an assist his first game. Hamach, not necessarily the greatest start, but hey, I'm optimistic both these guys can contribute massively to the attack. Thoughts on the 4 signings?
Yeah, and with Antwi, you got somebody who's a little bit more experienced as well, because you have our squad is pretty young at the moment, so it's nice to get another more experienced midfield signing and one who jumps right in and makes an impact. So.
He's the oldest one of the group. He's like 30 years old. He's the old man
exactly,
of the group.
Yeah. Him and Eunice are up there. Mauro, I mean, you just gotta love, Salazar doing the recruiting efforts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic.
I just read your private chat and I started laughing.
Oh, there you go. No, but of course there was a video of Rodrigo Salazar basically making a video for Schalke, basically saying Mauro's a very sweet boy. Please take care of him. Like, how can you not love it? I mean, another Salazar. Hopefully, he's got a couple, 30-yard wonder strikes in his bag, just like his older brother. We'll see. But even if nothing comes of that, it's nice that we have former players that are vouching for Schalke as a place where people can go and develop and be treated well, and whatever else. So, feel good story.
Absolutely. All right, last thing we get out of here on is talk about the ultras a little bit. So if you watch the game, you notice that it was considerably some empty seats there in the away section. sometimes you see these separation of the home fans and away fans, just because when the ultras get involved, you don't want them to fight. But it was a lot more seats than normal, and I didn't know what was going on until after the game. I saw the fact that this came from I don't remember where I heard it from, but Schalke fans were apprehended by the local police there, 350 of them to be exact, while they were at a train station. They were tipped off. I don't know if it was by the Magdeburg Ultras or whom, but they said you need to watch this group, and so they held up all 350 of the Ultras Gelsenkirchen and checked one by one all of them, and they took so long that they couldn't get into the stadium after because they ended up being late. The gates were closed already, so all that singing support we usually have at the games wasn't there. They claimed that they found all these weapons on the players, but the rumor was that the reason that if they had weapons on them is because there was a fear that they were going to get jumped. It's happened before with the Schalke Ultras where they go somewhere on the road and they get jumped. Rot-Weiss and Dortmund, I think, they jumped the Schalke Ultras a couple years ago, maybe it was last year. And so there's a rumor that the Magdeburg Ultras and a third party were going to jump Schalke. If you look back to February, the Magdeburg Ultras and the Schalke Ultras got into a fight in Magdeburg. There's big chaotic news there. Young kid got injured in that scrape. So, yeah, somebody tipped off the police. They apprehended or they held up 350 of the Ultras. And so by the time they let them go and sent them on their way, they couldn't go to the game. And so that big void was missing. That could have helped. I don't know if it helped in possession, but obviously having the support that Schalke has, probably one of the best supports in the world, it hurts. And it's unfortunate that happened to them. And so I know that the group, from the article that I read, the Schalke supporter group, they're going to file a legal action against it because they felt they were wrongfully held up, and they missed the game as well. So we'll see. I just thought I'd mention that because it was something I noticed during the game. I don't know if you noticed it, Jack, but it was clearly a lot of empty seats on both sides of the away section, so I kind of drew my eye, and now I know why.
It goes without saying that Schalke America is very much pro-grandiose tifo, but very much not pro-riot. So, no weapons, please, folks. And, hopefully we have some traveling support in the stands next time around, because as you mentioned, our away form as of late has not been something to write home about.
No, but like I said, we are in ninth position at the moment. Paderborn are still in first with Dusseldorf, and there's a lot of teams. We're within 3 points. We got Cologne next, and 8 goals for. That helps when you get 5 goals in one game against Eintracht Braunschweig. So it'll be an interesting game. It's at home. Hopefully we can get the result here against Cologne. But
here's the thing you got to say. Yeah, you can say, Cologne, wow, they scored 5 goals against Braunschweig. Guess who else scored 5 goals against Braunschweig?
We did.
We got it. Nothing to worry about.
That's right. And we're at home too, so I love it. And hopefully some of these injured guys are coming back. Brian Lasmus is on his way back as well. So excited about that. So, all right, Jack. Anything to part with our fans here, our listener support here, or if not, then tell us where they can find you across social media.
At JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Wonderful. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Follow us anywhere across social media. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to our page here on YouTube. Like the video and leave a comment as well. Helps with the algorithms. Game is this weekend. Don't have it right in front of me what day it is exactly, but it is at home. We'll do a preview of the game and a recap as well as we did this last couple weeks. So enjoy the week. Get ready for the big game against Cologne, and let's see if Ben Menga has anything left to cook as the transfer market winds down. So for Jack and myself, catch you guys next week. Glück auf.